I just sent you a message.
Good evening, it is November 20th, 2024. Welcome to the Brookfield Town Planning Commission meeting. And we will begin our meeting with the pledge. Let's begin with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we welcome Kevin Smedley for our monthly general plan update.
Ready? All right. So I emailed copies of the introduction. First of all, I guess I should back up and just say the surveys are going out, right?
Okay, got it.
The surveys are going to be going out soon. We're giving them till the middle of December to get complete them. And then we'll get those and I'll summarize that and bring that to you. Probably at the first meeting in January. Right.
Okay.
In the meantime, we want to get a start on some of the language in the general plan, the existing one. And so I've sent out, and if you need a copy, I've got some copies. The introduction, I skipped over. The first element was environmental, and I wanted to get some input on the order and that. So since the land use element is a required one, I just decided to attack that one first. What I'd like to do is just start with the introduction. You can see all the red line I put in there. And the one thing that was added in there was that the vision statement was in the Roman numeral pages. So I added it here because that's really what the basis of the general plan is all about, right? So I wanted to include it in the introduction, if that's okay with you, rather than just having it, because a lot of people turn past the index and go right to the paper, right to what's printed. So anyway, look at my red line. It looks pretty muddy or bloody, I guess. And I was just cleaning up the language and clarifying things. Some things were pretty vague. And so, do you have any input? I don't want to just read it line by line. If there's anything that you have that you would like.
And we might modify, especially the vision statement once we get that survey.
Right. So, and mostly this is to get a feel for if this is the type of modifications you would like. So this is a very rough draft, and I've done this a lot of times. I'm not offended if you say we really hate what you did. I'm not offended if you know, any changes, so please don't hesitate to speak up and say, this makes sense, this does not make sense. With that, is there any input on any of in this paragraph, this introduction?
I'm going to have input,
Sure.
I'm not ready, I haven't seen it.
Okay, right. And that's part of the point is, if there's something that stands out now, please bring it up. But you have time, we have time to
And
review it.
since we do not have a work meeting in December, if you update some of the other introductions,
forward.
just like send them to me and Crystal, and we'll get them to all the commissioners.
Right,
So that January meeting will be super productive.
okay, you bet.
And I've got a question on the floodplain.
Well, we're just on the vision right now.
We're just doing the introduction right at the moment, so and if there's, if you just want to move past that to the land use element, that's great.
Are there any other comments in the introduction before we move on to land use?
Let me just ask, does that make sense to move the vision statement to the introduction?
I like it.
I think so.
Okay. Realizing that there probably will be some
Yeah.
modifications, okay. So then to the land use element, it just started previously with current conditions, and so I added in a paragraph to introduce that section. And to kind of give a basis for the community of how, you know, things came about. If you want to take a minute and read through that.
Well, that you came up with all this, I was thinking it was somebody local wrote it, but.
No, it's based on what I've gathered from all of you, so.
Yeah, and we had talked about you doing this at one of the open houses.
Right. And taking it out of the third person, and putting it into your voice.
I would have to, draw your attention to current conditions. It says access to the Virgin River is through public lands and a developed trail and on land. There is no river access on nature conservancy land.
From the trailhead, there's no access,
No.
okay. So it just accesses the trail,
It's a trail. There is no river access on the nature conservancy.
okay, all right.
This one, I apologize, but I've read it once, but I like to read things 3 times before I
Yeah,
make comments. So I know very hard to comment, so this would be when you would ask that.
Okay. Okay, so just. So the floodplain was one of the items in the plan.
The last twice here.
There's pages at the bottom, numbers.
Yeah, page 7. And I thought that floodplains were controlled by the Army Corps of Engineers, and they said they say you can build here, or you can't build here, or you can build habitable structures here, you can build structures here.
So that is true on the Virgin River, but you also have drainage ways throughout the community. So this is kind of addressing that whole thing, because the Army Corps does not, unless it's a navigable water, they do not regulate it. And which means they don't regulate intermittent streams.
So the floodplain map that I found online, it's a FEMA map.
Yeah,
So they dictate where you can and cannot build.
they tell you where you might be flooded out. Also, we do have a current chapter that deals with, floodplain. And I knew our new subdivision ordinance also has language about it, so we do also have saying.
So what the FEMA floodplain map shows, it outlines a geographic area around the river. And it's outlining areas you need to have federal flood insurance if you're going to do it. And then there's additional requirements of raising your structure above that. It's not saying you can't build anything in there, but there's a lot of regulations when you do build things.
And we don't really have much say in that, right?
You have say on, some say, but yeah, I mean, it's regulated. Certain things are regulated by the Army Corps.
And the town council was discussing, as a matter of fact, last night, how there's lots in Rio, not Rio, well, you know they are,
Yeah.
but in the new, Cerebella, that have to deal with this issue and how can they accommodate for that designation. So that's what we have to say.
Right. And you have to say in design and that sort of thing. Some of the setbacks may be influenced by the Army Corps, but Most of the things the Army Corps deals with, they're gonna be mitigated, they can be mitigated. So not completely, like, you can't build, if your property goes to the center line of the river, you're not gonna be able to build a building in that area, right? But yeah, you can mitigate a lot. If it's common sense, there's a different argument.
The lot in Zion's Edge, it's right on the edge of the river, and they put a retaining wall up at the river. Is that something that,
That is something that I believe the town would like to move away from. That's what I was hearing from our engineer, because what it does is simply pushes the problem downstream, as I understand it.
Right.
So, although that one way to do it is not always the best. I don't know, I was just listening.
Right, and that comes into play, as we'll discuss more when we get to that particular part, is anything you do to modify a property affects the water flow off that property. And so generally, there's a requirement in community law that requires them to not change how it goes on to another property, or to accommodate that through a pipe or something that channels that.
And I think it's an important part of our planning, because I was reading in some of this year and the previous year storms that impacted Moab, and ensuing lawsuits because there wasn't enough. Or these people, but some people 2 years in a row got washed away.
Right.
We've also had problems, legal
Yeah.
problems because of
Yeah,
people, filling in washes and doing things.
yeah.
So,
Closer to home, just an example is in Paraguna, just north of here. They had an irrigation system set up early in the history of the town. And over time, people have filled in the drainage. It's not used that way anymore, but it was part of the drainage system, right? And so people have filled in those canals and have created flooding problems on adjacent properties. So it can become an issue.
right,
Larry, do you have any comments about the first item on page 7? Activity trails and the others, would you prefer that? And other commissioners as well, would that be better in the transportation element?
I feel like it would be.
Yeah, so let's think about that and we'll let you know, Kevin.
And yeah, and anything that's in the little brackets is just my questions or an observation. It's certainly not something that you have to do, but it's just, to me, it's like, well, if it's here and I'm doing something with transportation, am I gonna catch this?
Right, and I read this, not for sure, but the things were there, but we gotta be
Maybe not.
Anyway, so I thought this was a suggestion to Kevin, like move it to the transportation element.
Yeah.
But that was your suggestion, I guess, but it does, yeah,
Right,
since you put it there.
Crystal, did you email these documents to each commission member?
They're all in the SharePoint.
They're in the SharePoint under the general plan folder. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, on the SharePoint for November's work meeting. So if you want to look at the document and maybe modify it that way. Right, just if you do that, please initial any comments. Make sure your name is included so we know who to go to if we need clarification.
this is off topic, but, I can make comments on the documents in SharePoint.
I believe so.
I don't know.
If not, you can type them in like a different color font or highlight your comments and just put them in parentheses or brackets and put LB.
Okay,
Let me see what they are. Did you send them to me in a Word or a PDF?
They're in PDF, I can send them whatever. format
So we
you
can
like.
comment.
Yeah,
Send them in a Word.
yeah, if you want to send them over in a Word document, I'll upload them in a Word document in the same folder.
Yeah, because we'll have the original in PDF.
Yeah, send them to me over in Word and I'll upload them in Word.
Okay,
Is that okay with you?
yeah, that's fine. I just sent it in PDF so that
Correct.
I'm
That's
on the same page you are.
Correct. And that's why I said, I'm glad you did, because we have the foundational piece isn't gonna change.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll upload in that same folder, in the general plan, I'll upload the Word document in there.
And then if you prefer just to write in here, that's fine too.
Yeah. All right.
And anything else from you, Carrie?
No, so does this feel like the type of thing you're anticipating receiving, getting input? So I will work over the next month and a half and get you some stuff to have several weeks before your next meeting so that you can have some time to go through it.
Some towns are, well, if we were a larger municipality, we would be required to do this, but it is an option for us to have a water conservation element in our general plan. So I would like you all to think about that between now and our next meeting and decide. And then we'll look at what's in our general survey results and see if that might be something we want to add as a separate, or would it could also fit under environment.
Right. Yeah, there's no limit on the elements that you have in the general plan. It's up to you. And so whatever you feel need to be addressed, the only ones that have to be included are land use, transportation and circulation, and actually for a 10-year size, I think those are the two that are required. So there's others that can be included. And if you were to grow, you would be required to include them.
Perhaps as a future land use map.
Yes,
That is something else that we might consider, is having a land use map, which is not unusual.
right,
And I've
which is separate
talked
from
to
the zoning.
several people who, and several cities do that, and Washington does that.
Most bigger communities have a future land use map. And it's looking at areas that you might potentially change, so you already have zoning on all the land within your community. So it's looking at areas that you might want to create greater density or that sort, or change to a different type of use. And that would be outlined on the future land use map. It wouldn't change the zoning, that would require the property owner to come in if they wanted to do that and apply for the zone change, which would then comply with the future map.
I'm kind of interested in exploring that as an option. I don't know about anybody else.
I would love to, I've used that as a tool, most cities I've been working, where you've got a zoning map and a general plan or land use map, and you can see, oh, this is eventually gonna turn into high density residential. And it would be very easy to zone change, knowing this is the direction the town wants to go, so it would be helpful for it.
So maybe we'll investigate.
All right. All right. Have a good evening with the rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Kevin. Kevin, have a wonderful Thanksgiving and Christmas.
You as well.
And we won't see you till the new year.
All right, the third
Oh,
Wednesday.
yes, let me give you this. So our work meeting is still the third Wednesday, but these are that's on one side.
I can get it.
There's 2 pages.
Yeah, 2 pages. So this is our calendar for next year.
Awesome.
Okay, thank
See you
you.
then.
I can print myself. And just so commissioners know, town council, would like us to move our. We'd like us to move our, public hearing / regular meeting, from the second Wednesday to the second Tuesday, because they would like their, work meeting on that Wednesday, so they have a better turnaround time to their meeting that following Tuesday. Does that pose a problem for anyone on this committee? Well, I don't like it, but it's kind of.
Tell me what to do.
I like to be able to, I just like the meetings to all be on the same day of the week. Because I get into a pattern and it just works better for me, and to have it right at the beginning of the week is kind of. Unfortunate, but I'll do it if that's what everybody wants to
So
do.
you're basically, Wednesday gives you a little bit more time on each end.
Right,
I agree with that.
I don't know that we have a choice in that.
Also, it doesn't confuse the public because, public is confused also with town, with your guys' meeting being on a Wednesday and their meeting being on a Tuesday. Now we can always say meetings are on Tuesdays, work meetings are on Wednesdays.
Oh, so
With
we will,
both.
so we
So
will
you're-
match the town with our
And it will
meetings.
no
Our
longer
public
confuse
meetings will be
public.
on Tuesday and work meetings will be on.
On Wednesday,
Wednesdays.
and that will be the same for them as well. Their main meetings will be on Tuesday and their work meetings will be on Wednesday. So there's no
So
more
that
confusion
actually-
with the public either.
That helps the public.
Good.
All right, then. I already showed you the summary that I'm hoping to have the energy to do after each regular meeting.
Riker's on and he only has a short bit.
Okay, so I had him down for coming at 6, but he's here early, so great. I move on to Riker. Striker?
Riker schedule. Riker, you want, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm on. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, let's just move the mic over, so,
Perfect.
okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, I mean, if we can start with the neighborhood commercial zone. I just wanted to go over a few things so that I can get some clarity on some of the comments. Just so that I make sure that this reflects what the planning commission's wanting here. Does the commission, do you guys have that ordinance in front of you?
I have the neighborhood commercial.
Yes.
I have a digital copy. It's in our folder.
Yeah, it should be the same one that's in your SharePoint.
And in the folder, it is 40 point, in the document is 40.04 neighborhood commercial. Larry,
Mhm.
you want-
So this first part, one of the main things that the commission had commented on was the purpose that's included here. The direction that we received from the town council when we received direction to create or draft this ordinance was to create this as a zone that's supposed to kind of be in between your commercial area and your residential area. So it's supposed to be not quite as an intense use as a commercial zone, but not quite as but not a residential zone. So kind of a buffer area. So I agree that the purpose included in this draft is a little bit vague. I have alternative language that would be just in that first line that would read, the neighborhood commercial zone is intended to designate areas for smaller scale commercial activities between other commercial areas and residential areas to meet the daily needs of neighborhood residents. Is that clear enough for the commission, or would you prefer just a whole new purpose there? Or is that not where the commission would like to see this zone?
Would you repeat that? Because I don't have that here.
We don't have that. We can't see your amendments, so we just have to listen.
Okay. So essentially all the purpose is going to do is specify that this is supposed to be between other commercial areas and residential areas to meet the daily needs of neighborhood residents. The goal is to say that it's supposed to act as that buffer area.
Okay, Crystal, do we have a newer I don't see it here.
Riker, can you send that to me real quick via email and I'll upload it in their SharePoint?
Yep, I will do that.
Thank you. Because all we have is the old one.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, I just barely sent that over, Crystal.
Thank you so much, Riker.
Mhm.
What
Thank
I
you for-
heard sounded better. Do we have a timeline for getting this to a public hearing, Riker?
I'm hoping that after I get the comments tonight, that I can get a draft back to you in December. So because of the holidays and stuff, it'll probably be January before it goes for a public hearing. But the goal for me is to have that to you by mid-December.
Because then we can look at it closely.
Mhm.
Charlie, you see it in there? It should be in there.
All right, let me refresh.
Is it in the to record from record folder or?
No, it's just in the work meeting folder, living commercial zone.
November meeting?
Yes,
I've only seen the old draft.
so if you go to the November work meeting folder, it's in there now. We've got it. Go to November. Do that, just want to open that one bit. Great. And then go to. That's the regular meeting. Fine. I don't know, if you didn't see it on your computer, so I'll pull that. And then if you want to see what you read, just.
Thank you.
All right, did you find it, Lee, or you don't have your computer?
I don't have any way to.
We don't, okay. Well, why don't I pull it up on my computer and you can share it with Kent and I'll share it with Larry. Does that work? Okay. Pass that down, please.
Turn this over to you.
All right, like, we're set.
Okay.
So it's 4004, right?
Yeah. 400402 has that, just that first sentence I've altered. If you want to read through that, then let me know if that's that paired with the 400404 should specify where this zone is intended to be.
So did you find 400402? I scroll down,
4004. Let's see,
4002, purpose,
4002,
purpose.
yes.
That's what he's asking us to read. Just move this down here. The purpose of this zone is to promote the economic well-being of the town through the generation of sales and other taxes and implement land use policies, the general plan as follows. Am I in the right spot?
No,
That didn't sound like what you wrote. You
No.
read-
it should be,
What page are you on, Riker?
You want 04 general?
I'm on page 8. So it's 40, there should be a header that says 4004 neighborhood commercial. The text should be in a red font. A
It's
red
blue.
blue font,
It's blue.
blue, okay.
You're on 40, what are you reading? 4004, oh, I see.
And 4004,
Version of the people.
zoning red.
Conditional uses. No red. I can see. So first you have the old one and then, okay,
Yeah, so this is the
It's
way this
blue.
draft is structured. It includes neighborhood commercial underneath the town's commercial umbrella. So typically,
Okay.
like if you have multiple residential zones or multiple commercial zones, a lot of communities will have those all in the same district, and then they have separate classifications for each of those zones.
Okay, so then do we need to move our highway resort zone into this commercial town?
We
zone?
we could do that, or if the town would prefer to keep things separate as they are, then I can pull this out and put it in a separate ordinance. Part of the reasoning behind putting it in with your commercial zone is because there are some requirements that apply to both zones. And that way they only have to be stated once. And if they're ever amended, only one section has to be amended rather than amending two zones. Does that make sense?
It does. I think that in the past, we have used the term commercial zones to apply to all zones where there were businesses. But that would be neat, cleaner, what you're suggesting, I guess.
So, I'm just going to speak for myself. I am not convinced that I can read this and give effective feedback if this is the first time I see this update, Riker.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Can we put this on our January discussion and then work towards, we can give you feedback in January, have it at our January work meeting. I know you are unable to come to those, Riker. And then potentially put it on public hearing in February. Is that a possibility, Riker?
Yeah, that would be a possibility. If you're all right with it, I'd like to go through just a few more points in this ordinance just to get some general feedback. And then if there's more comments, we can incorporate those in as well. Is that all right?
Okay. Yes, so go ahead.
So the next thing I wanted to address is in the use table. So if you go down to 400406, allowed use table. You'll see a list of specified uses there. Arranged in a table. One of those, the third one down, is agriculture. I would suggest removing this or putting this as a prohibited use in your neighborhood commercial zone, but I wanted to get the input of the planning commission. The reason I would suggest removing it is because this is a mix of drastically different uses. You're having an incredible, agriculture is typically a low impact, low density use, and commercial or neighborhood commercial is fairly higher impact. So I'd like to get your feedback regarding that, whether or not that should be included in this table at all, or should be listed as a prohibited use.
That's a tough one, because, there's all different kinds of agriculture. And, you could consider, someone who's a beekeeper, agriculture, or somebody that just raises a few chickens in their backyard. How do you? I just find it kind of challenging for the town, who we are, what we are, and where we're headed, where we've come from. It's like a tough thing to, where is that spot? Where do you put this neighborhood commercial?
Well, it seems to me too that some agricultural uses would be highly incompatible with some of these neighborhood uses. And so what if we wanted to allow certain agricultural uses, maybe we should specifically name them. Because if you just say agriculture, we're gonna have, you don't really want a pig farm next to a restaurant. So, it seems to me that if we want to do that, we should think about exactly what uses like meat keeping we think would be compatible with the ones.
Yeah, so if,
But
if the commission would like to think of some agricultural uses that they would like to allow in this zone and include that in the feedback that they'll be, or the comments they'll be providing me later, then we can incorporate that into this ordinance.
Roger, did you incorporate these suggestions that we submitted earlier?
That's what a lot of these these points that I want to go through are going to address.
So one of the ones that we had concern about was the inclusion of apartments. We have no code.
Yeah.
on apartments. You wanted that removed.
Yeah, so I wanted to just double check on that, both apartments and multifamily. Apartments are defined in your code. But it is true that there's no area allowed for that. And so I just wanted to ask does the town intend to allow apartments in any place? Or does this need to be listed as a prohibited use? Not just removed from the table, but specifically prohibited in this zone.
Comment. Personally, I snuck a look at a sentence that Lee wrote on her piece of paper here about her vision of what a neighborhood commercial would be in her vision. And I think she ought to read that to us. I think that apartments, in my mind, are part of that integral part. I don't think they're on necessarily the same street as, an ice cream parlor or a hair parlor or something like that. But I can see them on the same block somewhere, back behind on the next street.
I disagree. I think multi-family units, when we think of that, we think of duplex, triplex, and quad. And when you consider our water / septic constraints, apartments are not feasible.
Yeah, definitely would have to meet infrastructure and water and sewer and what's available to be there, but I don't see neighborhood commercial as something that's just commercial. I see it as a neighborhood. Sorry. I mean, does that make sense? And I don't see it as just individually owned homes.
And if you heard duplexes,
Yeah,
triplexes,
Yeah.
quads,
yeah.
not,
4-story, 5-story, and 6. I totally agree. I
and those are
I hope we're not there yet.
those are what are traditionally thought of as apartments.
Yeah,
A duplex is not considered an apartment. A quad is not,
yeah, okay.
a fourplex.
Yeah. I see that. So those you would feel would fit into that.
There would be a way those could fit into the constraints of our sewer / water.
But since we don't yet allow them, we just need to remove that whole thing, keeping in mind that we may want to add that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for now, you'd like that, but all those multifamily kind of uses to be struck from this, correct?
For now.
For now.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
I have
Lee has a comment.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I was imagining neighborhood commercial to emphasize walkability. And so I just thought that's what everybody was sort of talking about is a place where the standards would go along with general principles for making a walkable area. And I don't really see much about that in here, but again, I'm not looking at your latest version, so I don't know. Maybe you do talk
This is the latest version.
this blue one, right, but I haven't read it.
Yeah.
I have the old version and I didn't see anything in there. So for instance, there might be smaller setbacks than in other commercial zones from the highway, for instance. You know, sort of to make a window shopping a possibility. Or another thing that I think really makes a big difference is to have in parking lots behind the buildings.
Okay.
And I don't know what everybody else feels about that, but it certainly makes the idea of walking through on a sidewalk and being able to, you know, walk through the front door of a business instead of having to walk across a parking lot. I think it just makes a big difference in the whole atmosphere and the community of the neighborhood.
So we do have provisions in here for smaller setbacks, but we could, if that's what the commission wants, we can include a clause that would encourage developers of this zone to place parking in the rear of their structures.
Me happy.
We also had expressed concerns as two-family dwellings are permitted. That's fine. Permitted. We had also questioned, the current setbacks of 7 feet.
Mhm.
10 from the side and 5 from the rear, particularly the rear. We have 2 new commissioners. Unfortunately, one is not here today. But we, you know, I would love to hear, maybe not right this second, because I know you're just seeing this document, but your thoughts on that as well, because that was a concern of mine.
Well, let me address that. So something that you'll see that's included just below the physical restrictions there in 400410. I've included a section for protection of residential zones. What this section's intended to do is to create a protection area or buffer zone between this zone and your rural residential zone or your other residential zones. What that means is that these reduced setbacks can be applicable when the neighborhood commercial zone abuts another neighborhood commercial zone or a highway commercial zone. But when it abuts a residential zone, there's the requirement is for a 15-foot setback and the installation of a block wall to protect that residential zone.
Would it be possible to add a sentence after physical restrictions to say what you said about when abutting another neighborhood commercial only?
Yeah, so
Setbacks, because
I don't know if you can see that protection of residential zones.
I see that,
So
and I
it
see what you say there, but it doesn't say that that chart only applies to adjoining buildings within residential commercial.
yeah, so I'll add a sentence that states that the physical restrictions apply to the neighborhood commercial zone unless one of the exceptions. I'll reference it back to that protection of residential zones.
Yeah,
So
because
that
I
it's
just,
clear.
thank you, so it's a little clearer.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. It's not necessarily clear that that it's applicable in that way. So I'll make sure that it states that. And then is a solid masonry wall, is that acceptable? I figured the town would prefer it not to be chain link fence between this zone and a residential zone. But in previous communities, we've specified a solid masonry wall. I'm just not sure what the town would prefer.
Yeah, that's in our commercial zone as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Next.
1 second, let me just make this note real quick about the physical restrictions. And then, so I included a section that addresses parking. One of the things that was wanted here was the ability to have shared parking. So if you go to 40.04.12 under B, there's a section titled shared parking. Over the course of the next month and a half, 2 months, if the commission would review that and make sure those standards are acceptable. But also, I just wanted to see, is this something that you'd like to extend to other commercial zones or be solely for the neighborhood commercial zone?
I feel like the state is leaning towards shared parking in all communities, just because there's so much parking and so many just big paved parking lots that are sitting empty all night or all day. So I think it could be applied to our existing commercial.
I agree.
Okay, I will add that. That's the last point that I wanted to hit on the neighborhood commercial zone, unless there are any other questions that you have for me on this ordinance.
I'm sure we will have questions this time.
Yeah.
But thank you for getting us the updated version so we can go over it. This is a PDF as well. So, I believe.
Would you like me to send over a Word document?
Yes, as long as we have, your original work in a PDF, it would allow us to make comments in the document.
Okay.
Just commissioners, make sure that we do that in SharePoint and we identify our comments. And Kent, if you have comments, you can send them to me and I'll put them in the document in SharePoint.
So,
Go ahead, Gregor.
Go ahead.
sorry, I apologize. I was just gonna say, going forward, I'll send 2 copies of the draft of draft ordinances to Crystal. One will be a PDF and the other will be a Word document, and I'll just do that with all drafts going forward.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for your time and for being at 2 of our meetings this month. It's really appreciated, Riker.
We're not done with Riker.
We're not done with Riker. This is
No,
true.
sorry, I have one more thing I wanted to address. I had received an email about the live work ordinance. Larry, I believe you had asked that I helped to, you wanted to change, it's
So what, I
16.
didn't realize there was a conditioned use already in our code. So what I'm doing is eliminating that conditioned use and making it an approved use with the conditions that are outlined. So it would also be replacing the conditional use, and I think in that email, there might be a note showing where it was at and what to eliminate.
Okay, so would you like me to do you want me to draft an ordinance that removes this? That removes 16.26 from conditional uses and places it as a permitted use?
Yes.
Okay, so the only thing I would ask is, can you, Crystal, can you send me the the live work ordinance that has the changes that Larry's made to that ordinance so that I can incorporate that all into a single document.
Mavis?
I didn't make the changes, I sent the, email that, and I can make them, it's no big
Yeah,
deal, I
he
just,
wants you to make the changes and
Okay.
update the ordinance. Send that to me and then I'll send it to him.
alright, so we're just eliminating Bulu 1626, which is a conditional use, and making it
So make those changes in the
Yeah.
ordinance, send it to me and I'll forward it to the writer.
a, yeah,
Got it.
Yeah.
Ryder?
Yeah, so all I'm asking is that, because that live work ordinance was like, it was just a few lines that established. It didn't address 16.26. I just
Right.
that language, and then I can go through and make sure that we eliminate anything in, or that I can adjust the language in 16.26 to reflect that it's a permitted use and that it has those additional requirements that we included with parking for those uses.
and I think the state would like us to eliminate all conditional uses and write them as approved uses with a list of conditions, so that it can be approved by staff instead of having to come to us. But this is one of many.
I think there would be some discussion about that,
What's that?
removing conditional uses and not having them go through any body that represents public.
Well, I think we would go through it, put the conditions in it and say, if you want to put a kennel in this zone, here's the requirements. Instead of just saying there's a conditional use and not telling them what the conditions are, then. They go
Yeah,
for 6 months to figure out what the
except sometimes conditions vary based on location, proximity to neighborhoods. So they might be different, so I have to think about that one. We probably need to talk more about why this should not be a conditional use, because I want to find out why it is a conditional use currently. What is the history behind there? I think we need to be cognizant of that. That's just.
how to get that history.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I think it needs more discussion. I can get some history, but not here and now, I don't think.
Yeah. And we want to see the final. Right? So,
Yes.
thank you, Ryder. Are there any other items?
The subdivision.
The subdivision ordinance, do you have any updates for us on that?
So this one that Riker sent over, it's in your Riker's version of the subdivision ordinance is in the SharePoint folder. Riker, as you know, Keith has the ordinance. He is making some legal changes. He said he will get that over to me tomorrow. I've made it very clear I need it tomorrow. So he should have it to me tomorrow, and I will forward that as well over to you.
Thank you.
He said that his changes should be in red, and he wanted you to look at that as well, so.
You being record.
I'm talking record. And I'll also upload that in the SharePoint folder for planning commission to look at as well, as soon as Keith gets that to me. This will be in the December folder. So look in the December folder, that's where I'm gonna upload it, because this is going on public
It
hearing.
has to go on public
And
hearing. We have to figure.
Darlene and I talked, best case scenario is we're gonna list it for subdivision ordinance. We're gonna upload option A, we're gonna upload option B with the Keiths and Rikers. And you guys can look at both of them, hash it out, and send which one you recommend. And town council can make their final decision. And that way we are safe as far as the planning commission is safe. Because both the documents have been uploaded, they both had the public hearing. You guys have seen both documents, they've had the public hearing on both documents. And it falls back on the town council to make that decision on which one to put forward.
And we will not have time for,
Because it has to go through.
yeah, and we won't have time for discussion. So
Yeah.
make sure, you know, you make a decision and we'll give a recommendation for approval of denial on A
Or B.
and B.
Mhm.
I mean, one will be approval, one will be denial. Or however,
Yeah.
you know, whatever, and then we'll send it to town council.
So there's no editing to be done by us.
No,
Okay, got it.
Riker, are you good with that?
Yes, yes, that would be acceptable.
Okay, that's just the best case scenario that we have with the limited time that we have at this point, because we can't really keep going and making changes anymore.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so I will wait for that email from you on the subdivision ordinance and on the live work ordinance. Once I receive the live work ordinance email, I'll start work on that draft. And then I will continue work on the neighborhood commercial ordinance.
thank you so much, Maggie.
Thank you. I appreciate your patience and your time.
Same here, now I can wish you happy holidays and wonderful
Yes.
things.
Happy holidays.
All right. All right, so if we look at our agenda, the next thing on our agenda is item number 5, and that is the uses chart. And we had a public hearing on this, and we discussed it, and the town attorney said this would not trigger another public hearing, and, oh, no, this one is fine. It's just, yeah, this one is fine. It's just repealing the uses chart and having, it doesn't, this chart can live outside of code, just not in code. Okay? We've talked about this several times. Does anybody, and I just wanted you to know that we will be voting on it in December. And so here is the copy that we will be voting on, so you have plenty of time, okay? Any other comments on that one?
Just that I'm very much in favor of having a chart, but not having it in the ordinance. I think that the chapter, it makes people not even bother to read the purpose of the zone that the use might be allowed in, and that's not a good thing. So I agree that it should be removed.
And I will make sure, well, the town won't necessarily get our work meeting notes, but just like I created this document for our public meetings, I'm taking notes so that I can create one and share it with you, so we have an easy way to refresh our memories as to what we did. So Lee, and I think I saw Larry shaking his head as well. I don't know what Ken thinks about having the chart live outside of the ordinance, but still having a chart, because that could be a recommendation.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. All right, thank you. So then we are on number 6, and this is the one where we had to add a little bit. So the document is renewable logging and service stations for commercial zones. Larry, did you receive a copy of the letter we got from an individual?
No,
Maybe Crystal has, no, Crystal, do you have a copy of that letter from Mr. Madsen? I'll get a copy. So we had a public hearing, there were no comments. We did receive one letter, so we wanted to make sure we address those concerns. And before we have that discussion, I don't know why this is included, but I will fix this. I added another section, section 3, it should just be black. And that is additional use specific requirements needed to be also deleted from the chapter. So that's all that is in section 3.
Send it to you there.
And then section 4 used to be section 3, section 5 used to be section 4, etc. Okay, so. Mr. Nestor was concerned about the removal of the gas stations. And, I know, Lee, you had, some thoughts on that?
Well, for one thing, I think that we're not really big enough to need more gas stations at this point. Not that we have any, but we're about to have two. And since a gas station, the normal shape of one will create gas in any kind of walkable area. Cause, you'll have to walk across a smelly, gassy parking lot. Anyway, I just don't think we should encourage them any more than we need to.
I think that in a town of under 800 people too is sufficient, and we should create space for other types of commercial endeavors.
Yes, if we can put some things in the prohibited pile, that will make the things that are in the permitted pile much more attractive to somebody who wants to come do a business here. So we may end up with more restaurants or more shops or whatever, and I think that could be a very good thing for the residents and tourists.
Larry just emailed it to you.
Let's ask that question. I know where one gas station is going. Where's the other one?
So, where White Bison has their entrance, the one to the east, is that correct?
Yeah, right in front of it.
On the east side,
Oh,
right?
No, they're digging right now.
They're digging right now.
see, I mean, my preference would always be to put gas stations in along with other auto intensive uses like hotels and things like that, rather than, breaking up the neighborhood. Just it kind of belongs in highway resort, I think.
This new one is,
Okay,
and they still would be allowed in highway resort.
right,
We're just talking commercial.
right.
All right. Okay, so that is item number 6. Hence, do you have anything to add?
No,
Lee, did we cover everything?
I think so.
Okay.
And my opinion on the gas stations is that it's really not up to us to decide if the town needs to or not. I mean, it's not based on residents, it's based on traffic, and if they feel like the traffic substantiates a second gas station, then we don't need to encourage them, but if they're,
Well, we have to.
have to encourage them,
No, we have 2 gas stations.
have to.
There are 2 approved gas stations.
So the third guy might say, well, if there's 2 approved, but I don't think it's up to us to say that, and then I feel like commercial zones where they should be.
And they want a third one, they have to, put it in the highway resort.
If we got that ordinance, but right now we're allowed to, right?
Currently, they are, that's the whole point of the
Right.
ordinance.
What's the difference between commercial and highway resort other than location?
Because you're balancing a need like you voiced versus a concern that many citizens have voiced. Because citizens live here and, that is a concern.
My property abuts to highway,
Yes,
so it's okay in my neighborhood, but not in the other 2 parts of town, I guess, is
well,
that
there wouldn't be any, sure, neighborhood is,
it's surrounded by highway resort.
yeah, yeah.
We're putting that on in December. There's been a public hearing. And this is our discussion. So that's one of the. Last week. Any other thoughts on that one?
And the only comment was from that letter.
Correct, and there was no statements at public hearing. And then item number 7, Kent, and it is in our SharePoint folder for tonight, has provided the most updated version of our lighting ordinance. Kent, do you have anything you want to point out to us about how this one is different? And then, once again, we're gonna have to absorb this and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
in the new.
Thanks to help from a lot of people making comments, and we've been working on this thing for 6 months. So, I was able to incorporate your ideas, I think, to a great extent, that you've given. Paul, we helped us put this all together, and we submitted it to Crystal, who's going to send it to our prosecutor for him to give us some of his needs to be in the document, so that violations can be effectively prosecuted
Enforce our code enforcement.
in the code. And there was, let's see,
Is it going to Riker as well?
pardon?
Are you saying it to Riker as well or no?
And it's going to Riker as well. So, appreciate your comments, all of you coming back on that, and take a look at the changes that have been made.
So my hope is that by January, we'll have it back and then we'll make a decision.
Yeah, I hope we get
this to public
things
hearing.
back from the prosecutor and Riker next month in December, and we can meet on it and hopefully move it forward to town council.
Okay, all right. I haven't had a chance to delve into it yet, but I wanted to make sure we all knew where it was, so we could. All right?
Okay.
All right. Now, the next one is, the e-bike ordinance, and what it is doing is simply making sure that, currently in our code, we say bicycles. And in some places, we say non-motorized bicycles. And when this code was written, e-bikes were not a thing. So we want to update our code and treat, and include e-bikes. And so, there's 3 sections in our code where bicycles are mentioned. And so the underlined portions are where, I added, and I did this, because I thought, eventually, I do believe we're going to need to have, a more robust section on e-bikes, especially on our shared use paths with pedestrians. Not quite sure what that would look like. I know, several municipalities do that. So we have to decide, is that something we want to do? And if so, how do we want to do it? But for now, all we did is the first section is the first place where bicycles are mentioned. And before it says, a continuous trail for use by pedestrians and bicycles. That should not be unlike. Non-motorized bicycles as well as class 1 and class 2 e-bikes shall be developed in accordance with town standards. So it includes them because they will be on these shared pathways that are going to come through that. Is that correct, Harry?
Okay.
All right. And, state code does allow us to limit class 3
And then the section 2 is the second place where bicycles are mentioned. And that is in conditional uses. And it says, one of the conditional uses is non-motorized bicycle rental and tour service, and I added as well as class 1 and class 2 e-bike rental and tour service. And the third section is the third place where bicycles are mentioned. And once again, it's on a continuous paved trail for use by pedestrians and non-motorized bicycles, as well as class 1 and class 2 e-bikes.
So on the e-bike rental, are there, I don't know what, there are limitations on the BLMs?
BLM
Trails.
does not allow e-bike, I have Nature Conservancy does not allow e-bikes, I do not think they do, I think I read that, but I'd have to go back and double check, that's an easy girl.
I just want to make sure if somebody develops a long sheet bridge with a bicycle rental shop that we're not limiting, if those trails can be ridden by.
Correct. And let's double check, well, we're not limiting, we're, including,
Don't include any
We're-
class threes or,
not trees,
so.
because threes are
Basically motorcycles.
correct, that's everything I read, yes, and they go way, but at least 30% faster. So, and there is state code as stated in the warehouses that says, we can modify them,
Right,
okay?
I just want to make sure if we don't allow them in town, but they're allowed on all the mountain bike trails, that we're not limiting a business who could potentially be running into people who are not gonna run in our trails, or the city's, the town's trails, but on them.
Yeah,
Sure.
most trails don't allow class 3.
Okay. Yeah,
One what I've read, and I haven't read every ordinance, but right,
I think some don't allow any motorized.
yeah, and I think I read that, but don't quote me.
Yeah.
You know, especially if it's a dirt trail, they definitely don't allow those, and that's what I think.
I know you can take e-bikes, they have mountain bike e-bikes.
Yeah, yeah, and they're, but I don't know that they're class 3.
Is a class 3 just a throttle
Mhm.
and a pedal?
Class 2 is a throttle and a pedal. Class 1 is just a pedal.
and class 3 is
We-
just throttle.
Class 3 is just a motorcycle.
Yeah, that's generally the consensus, so everything I read.
Yeah, and I have no problem limiting that on our shared use trails, I just want to make sure we're not, if we don't allow a rental company to rent class 3s where there could potentially be use for them outside of our town, then we want to think about that, but you're probably right that they're not gonna allow a class 3, if it's a throttle electric bike, they're not gonna just allow it in the gym.
And, once you get to class 3, you have age restrictions, who can ride it in that
Yeah.
way, yeah,
Rules suddenly apply.
Right,
I think they require helmets. Which struck me as odd,
Yes,
because
it did.
motorcycles don't.
it's crazy. But you're right, it says riders must wear.
I mean, I understand Utah, I understand my personal preferences, but I just thought there's a disconnect there.
So the class bike 2 is not good, I'm supposed to talk.
Good question, so Larry.
Well, I just, but now I realize that I'm sure those aren't allowed on any of the mountain bike trails either, so it's not gonna be an issue.
Okay. Right, that one is going to go to public hearing.
So is this ordinance, will be going to public hearing? So this buffer landscaping shall be amended as follows, what does that have to do with e-bikes?
Because it talks about shared path, was used by pedestrians and it used to just say bicycles, but e-bikes, we also.
So I know,
So, you know, like the one that's gonna come up nine,
right,
e-bikes are gonna use that, pedestrians are gonna use that.
Right.
So,
But we're also gonna take 50 feet from the commercial log owner's property for a bike trail. I don't understand what the 50-foot buffer does.
So if
This
is
exists
just
in that law.
let me pull that one up, let me read that for you. So you're looking at those properties with frontage on SR9. Where safety and welfare are not in that buffer, there's already a 50-foot buffer.
Yeah.
All right, so like at the gas station near Desert Gardens, there's a 50-foot buffer. If in that buffer, they wanted to put a pathway, they could.
So the landowner could or the town could.
I think it would be both. In lieu of sidewalks. Right, they could put that.
And
You know, like there is in front of the, Zion RV resort,
yes,
there's that pathway. So that's an example.
and for me, I know that we're trying to slow traffic down on the street, and one of the suggestions from UDOT and from the planner was to bring the buildings closer together, put parking in the back. So if we have a building that's 10 feet from the right of way and a sidewalk, so you can,
And,
so it's pedestrian friendly, then.
well, that's, these are all things we need to consider as we move forward with our general plan. But just for current needs, so this may change in the future based on some of the points you're bringing up.
This needs to be added to.
But this isn't an e-bike regulation, it's just updating our code to reflect the existence of e-bikes in the places where we mentioned bicycles. Lee?
I forgot what I was gonna say, never mind.
Kent, do you have any thoughts?
Oh, I remembered, and it's not on the topic we're supposed to be discussing, but yeah, the idea of putting buildings closer together and having a smaller setback from the highway would slow traffic, and that would be the difference between commercial zone and this new neighborhood commercial that we're talking about, so.
And can a neighborhood commercial overlay onto a commercial, so it's a more restrictive code if somebody had a commercial zone, could they choose to use?
Huh.
That is something we could consider in our land use map, if we did that. That might be something,
I mean, if somebody had a big chunk of land and they want to develop a whole center with this village commercial standards, you know, it's all pedestrian oriented and parking back in the back corner.
Just rezone. It should be easy to rezone from commercial to village commercial.
Correct. Yes. It seems like if it's more restrictive, in other words, there's very limited use. If somebody said, I would like to develop my piece of property with those limited uses, they would have to get a rezone, apparently, or not just, we couldn't just say that this, neighborhood commercial.
And I hear what you're saying, but I also think we need to be intentional about how we design or how we recommend the town
And do we
design, so it's not all hodgepodge.
Right, do we have a specific locations in town that we're gonna zone?
Neighborhood commercial?
Right,
Yes. It's this old part of town on the highway.
which is all down there.
I know, downtown.
Like,
So like if you go out to Mill Street, maybe till it hits, Highway Resort. Would you go that far? And then this way is just, it's not that far, this way to the,
just
to the
between
east.
resorts.
I'd have to look at the map to double check, but yes, it's gonna be in the center of town. The highway is my understanding.
Is that correct? I think so. I don't think that's been cited, actually.
Yeah. That's where it will start.
There, yeah,
Maybe that's the best way to put
because
it.
after the general plan is decided,
Yeah.
the future land use map is created. Built very slowly.
Okay,
Okay.
how are we doing on time?
Good, great.
And So, if we could go down to number 10 real quick, and then we'll pop back up to our rules and procedures and the meeting. On number 10. In your folder. Let me go to number 10 here. I already gave you the calendar, we already took care of that. I have some proposed, I'm just gonna put this on here. Language. We were given ordinance top down from the town council about changing 4.02 B and D. Or 4.02, and it would read that officers that we elect would have to be approved by town council, and it would eliminate alternates, and it would require that our rules and procedures be approved by town council. And we as a body, were not very pleased with that. So
Good.
I proposed that, but there was some rationale behind that. So I wondered if we could go in, and these are just a starting point, okay, so this is where your feedback is important. But under vacancies and removals for cause, if we were to add repeated failure to follow currently it reads that you can be removed for repeated failure to attend Virgin Town Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. And I would add, and or the repeated failure to follow the planning commission's adopted rules and procedures. And in there, we could put things like getting things like, well, not so much for you, but like,
Sure.
you know, like treating each other respectfully, coming prepared, those kinds of things. So if there was a problem with any particular commissioner not taking their responsibilities seriously, and we design our rules and procedures, so those are things we agree upon, right? That is another way to get to the same end that we initiate, right? And then for officers, it just says, you know, you've got a chairperson and a chairperson pro tem, and our office is for 1 year. And I would suggest adding similar language: the Virgin Town Council shall have the right to remove from office, but not from the commission, any officer who repeatedly does not follow the rules and procedures associated with the office held. So like if I gave Crystal things the day before, constantly, you know, or if I did not treat you with respect, right? Or if I didn't communicate to you guys. Right, those things were in our rules and procedures. We set up those rules, and then the town council has an objective list to check on. Not so that it becomes then performance-based rather than personality-based.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
What do you guys think of that approach?
I just wonder about repeated failure. I wonder,
What does that look like?
how do we, yeah, and maybe it could at least say documented repeated failure. I don't know whether.
Yeah, I just took the language that existed, but I
I know.
had the same question. So, on both ones?
Yeah, right.
What do you guys think?
So you feel that the chairman, almost derelict in their duty, they're still fit to be a commissioner, just not the chairperson, or can still be fit to be chairperson?
Oh,
Or I mean, commissioner, just not.
yeah. We have great ideas,
Right, but just.
they add to the.
Or like.
They add to the discussion. Correct. Kent?
I don't have any problem with it.
So, documented, how would that would work in B? Lee, but what? I have the right to remove from office, any officer who
a documented repeated failure to attend Virgin Town?
Well, no, D.
Oh, D.
What would it look like in D?
Oh.
I think that works, right? If Crystal says I get the stuff the day before every month, that's documented, I think.
Yeah. Oh, is that what you're asking? Is
Yeah,
that
how do
what-
we include documented in D?
Oh, you're just asking about the language.
Mhm.
Who,
We're gonna have to read.
who's,
Is that one for Keith? Here's our, and Keith, tell us how to write it.
Who has
who
repeated,
is documented to have repeatedly?
any officer who has repeated, documented.
Who is documented.
It's just so much easier to say repeatedly.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
Well, we can play with that, but if that is something that you guys are open to, I will approach town council with this. Or we can send back a recommendation, or we can vote on it in December. And we can make a recommendation as he instructed me, I probably should have done, to deny. And, with the recommendation
To let us do it.
to let us do it, and we can share this approach with them. Now, in that discussion that we had, there was interest in keeping alternates.
I think we should.
I know, Kent, you seem to favor alternates.
Definitely.
What
I
are
know
your
it's
thoughts?
hard. I think, watching alternates, I think sometimes I think they have a harder time staying involved with what's going on and then just slipping right in and needing to know it. I know it's hard enough for me, and I'm here, so that's an issue. What I think about it is that there are people, I don't feel right, we have a quorum of 3 here to vote.
Yeah.
I think that could become, an unfair situation. And I just think we should do our best to have a quorum and alternates make that.
And we tend to have differing viewpoints, which is an asset. So it would, if we had 2 alternates and we knew who these were, and it was up to us to contact the alternate who wanted to take our place, so that they could echo or convey our voice better. What do you think of that?
If it's legal, I think it's a good idea.
If it's legal? So I was playing with that idea too.
Also, I think having alternates, kind of is a little training course for new members.
right?
And, it might get us a bigger pool of people to choose from when there's a vacancy on the commission.
Took us several months to fill my first.
You guys can't have the alternates call the alternate and say, hey, I'm not coming to this meeting. This is how I want you to vote.
No,
Yeah.
no.
But so I'm not
Whatsoever.
available to take my place.
Yeah, the
Yes.
alternate is strictly to vote on the way that they choose to vote.
Correct, right.
And they
Yes.
have their own mind and their own
correct.
Yes.
ability.
So would those alternates get
So-
access to SharePoint and all that, all the documents?
There's pros and cons, maybe we just think about this one.
The one con that we ran into with the previous alternates is they are not coming to the meetings,
So they're not.
so they're not caught up on
Right.
your work meetings, what's going on. I mean, they're looking at a document, first time and voting on it. They didn't come to the previous public hearing, but yet now they're voting on something based on the first time they're hearing. So they're not coming to all the meetings, they're not being caught up to everything, and they're just voting. So if there's going to be alternates, I would say that you would need to put some rules on an alternate, that they have to be coming to meetings. They're also not compensated, so they really don't show up. That's why. It's true.
Well,
Wait a minute, I beg your pardon.
This is
So let's
the problem with an alternate is I mean, it's great, they fill in when they need to, and they come and they vote. I mean, I can have an alternate show up or, you know, they can come and show up and when you're gone and vote for something,
That, yeah.
but they've never even seen the document, or they have no idea what all the public hearings said, or they don't know the background of your lighting ordinance or your sign ordinance that you guys have worked on for 3-4 months. They don't know, they're not paying attention.
so what if there were some guidelines that went along with allowing alternates, such as that they would not be in SharePoint, they would be given everything on paper or emailed the documents that were going to be considered on the night they were there, and that they were given minutes from the public hearing on the issue, any issue that was gonna be voted that night. I don't know, what, would that resolve some of those problems?
What was that last thing you said?
Minutes.
Oh, yeah, given the minutes from the public
But once
hearing.
again, this is the first time they're gonna be looking and they're gonna be overwhelmed.
Yeah,
I
Well, I
mean,
think
you'd be
there's-
overwhelmed
There's
by,
pros and cons, so let's consider that.
so that's the hard thing. So if you're gonna have an alternate show, I mean, I think they need to be fully involved just as much as you guys are. I mean, like Sherry, she'd be a great alternate. She's here every meeting.
But she all at the same time, by the way.
All partners.
Not necessarily.
All partners and spouses are automatic.
It needs to be somebody who is here every meeting that knows what's going on.
All right, so we're gonna
we'll
consider
think about
that. But we are I got consensus on that different approach to B&E versus an ordinance that requires town council approval of whoever we elect.
I think we should try it, sure.
Yeah, and then maybe they have some more, maybe they could tell us more why they chose
Right.
not to have alternates.
I mean, anything we send to the town council is negotiable.
Yeah, and also the third thing was approving our procedures, rules and procedures. I have less of an issue with that.
And I guess last meeting where you had this discussion, but I feel like it should be the town's, this is the rules for running that planning commission meeting, and here's the rules for running the city council meeting. They should be very similar.
Correct.
And I think instead of us trying to come up with it, it should be, the attorney should say, this is how you're gonna run your meetings, and this is our rules, and
Well, with that in mind, this may argue why we need input.
with our.
So I have less of a problem with them approving our rules and procedures. Kent, what are your thoughts on that? I would prefer to be independent. I mean, because I think we give town council their due deference.
That's what, about it.
Yes.
I don't really worry about the town council telling us what our rules and procedures are any more than I worry about the state telling us what our rules and procedures are. I don't know that the town council should be any different than state law. And so I wanna, my hackle gets up when I first hear about this, because I don't want, anybody telling me what to do. I know everything. But I sometimes become, concerned about what's the purpose, and we've had this discussion in the past month or two, a little bit about where these feelings came from, that we need to have more control out of what we do, as to what we do, and so forth. But I don't know, I think it's getting petty, in a way, but it doesn't affect how
Okay, so in order to be allowed to vote without approval. This might be a compromise, so allow them to have this okaying our rules and procedures, but not our chair and pro tem. Lee,
On the question of our rules and procedures, I don't really mind what we already have. There could be some minor changes, but I just don't.
and that's what I'd really like us to commit to, is going through those documents and making the changes.
Yeah,
So what I did do, and that's what I have here. Before I leave 10, and go back to rules and procedures. There is I just want to let you know, pay attention to the December folder for the public hearing, because it is a zone change. It is one that has failed a couple months ago, opposite Desert Gardens. And apparently they resubmitted it.
The food truck,
I don't know, yeah. Yeah.
and I
So,
feel like the food truck conditional use is something that we should probably work on. Setting some standards. There's a lot of things that can be really good about it, and other things that can be really bad about it, and I want to make sure we set that up before it becomes, and I don't understand, I don't know what the conditional use process is, and can the conditions vary from site to site, or if you want to do this particular use, here's the 5 things you have to abide by, and,
mhm.
but I've got a lot of ideas on the food truck courts.
I agree. There are other uses that have specific standards designed for for them. And so, yeah, I think food truck would definitely be one of those things that would benefit from some rules.
And we're not,
Being reminded, I believe the food truck thing is even.
yeah, we're not even supposed to consider that when we're considering the zone change, right? It's not there.
Well, we weren't totally, we just gotta remember, we were missing one that started this term about. So we just need to keep that in mind as well. I added my thoughts onto rules and procedures. I just wanted to make you aware that that was there, so you wouldn't be surprised about that change. Okay. I don't think there's anything coming from town council to us this month, next January. I think there will be. All right.
Where's that?
I don't think there's any new ordinances coming from town council. Oh, Rose, I haven't heard. I had some thoughts, and I started this just 2-page document. Can't you want to have my hard copy?
Is it still other comments, or are we moving back to 9?
We are going to 9. I'm done with other.
Can I bring something up?
Sure. This is on the calendar?
What's that?
This is on the.
Yeah, this is on the calendar. I've got 3 conflicts.
Will
next
you
year.
be available digitally?
I've got actually 6 conflicts, but a couple of them will be available, 3 of them will be available digitally.
So did the moving it to Tuesday create the conflict, or? would they
No,
have-
both of them are events that I am working at that are basically from the time I get up to the time I go to bed, I'm working, so I couldn't pull away to get on digitally, and all 3 of them were events that are set.
So are they work meetings or are they?
Work meeting. So I just wanted to see if there's other dates that would work for us as a group. Far enough in advance where we can give public notice. Or I just don't know alternate what I want.
If there's not. It has been a struggle this year with changing meetings. It's hard on our clerk, it's hard on the public. And that's why I really wanted to get this out early. If there were meetings, these are recorded and I'm always available for clarification. I know it didn't work out last time when I reached out to you, picked you up. The ones where I really like your input is our, just to hear from the public and to your vote
Yeah, it looks like the only issues I ever had are the three big ones that I had issues with, very good, I won't be able to hear. In fact, they're the May, April, and February meetings. I was hoping that it was far enough in advance where we could. And the August and September meetings will be away, but I can do those remotely.
May,
So February 19th, April 16th, and May
Those
21st.
are all work meetings.
Yeah,
February 19th.
19th, April 16th, and May 21st. And we normally try and plan anything we're doing personally, so it doesn't conflict, but sometimes it's events that have specific dates and I can't change. And those three are that.
And then what are the other dates?
The other dates are August 20th. Both meetings in September will be on the 9th and the 17th, but I can call in on the August and September meetings.
Zoom. Okay. And that's all.
That's it. Yeah, so the rest I can control those.
You guys should have all received an email from me today. I know Lee's the only one that has responded about, oh, and Larry's responded already, about training that's mandatory. Larry and Lee are the only two that are responding, so Darlene and Kent to make sure that you guys respond to me on that. I gotta get a head counts because for food and stuff that we need planning. Okay.
I had to double check. That's why I didn't respond immediately,
So
but
that's
my
fine.
husband has some free, so I think I'll be fine.
Okay, that's fine. Most of it's in the morning anyway, so if you
Yeah.
have to speak out early, that would be
Yeah.
fine.
I'll just miss lunch.
Well, they bring me lunch, so I can get there.
All right.
Also, you will be getting an invitation, so just please mark this on your calendars for December 19th.
No.
Usually surprises. Surprises.
Right. December 19th,
What day is that?
Thursday.
Okay, then it's not,
At 6 P.M. is our town gathering for staff and planning and zoning and town council.
and the 12th.
The
Is-
12th is
is our
our
Christmas
town
party.
Christmas party with
And
the town.
Oh, and it was so much fun last. Sorry. It's so many.
Yeah, the town Christmas party is on the 12th,
Yeah,
and the 19th is the employee and staff.
yeah.
How will it take place out?
Will you be here then?
I'll be here for the 19th, and I'll be gone for 12.
Lee, when you said you liked the current ones, which one were you talking about? Other two.
That's the, that looks like the one I was looking
The
at.
one that's a resolution?
Want coffee stains on it?
The resolution, that's fine.
Okay, resolution 2016-2.
Yeah, so I started typing it up and then and I'll keep working on it. I might have to make a rules of procedure folder outside of a month.
Is this something that will be adopted as an ordinance?
It's a resolution, these are
Okay.
resolutions, and I do Mary, that wherever possible and practical, we should wear the gown. But I did, because of the change for D and D, especially D, officers, I wanted to include some measurable language. And now very unique.
I didn't think that. I knew it, that.
But I haven't memorized. Like, one of the things is, the chair will get, all documents for public hearing as well. To, the clerk 17 days prior, and for meetings 10 days prior. Because that's a measurable
Yes.
goal.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And if we have two, we don't have a million things, but just, that could be one, right?
It might, maybe it should say the address of this building. If it's gonna be sitting around as long as this last one did.
Where is it say the address? Oh, where we meet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I started typing up this, okay, and then I did change some things, a few things. And that's, you know, why, because I paper put them all together. No, this is separate issues. Larry. Blame you. Is it okay if I blame you?
Sure.
Okay.
I've been there a long time.
Do you see the single sheet that I added? Well, I gave mine to Kent. That's why I can't find it.
This one or the? This,
It's a one-page thing. Yeah. So,
It's got a backside to that.
yeah, we need to change that, right? It does have a backside. But a lot of it I'm taking from that original document. I also included, so what I just said is under the meeting agenda. Rather than the meeting agenda. Who can put it on, right?
right,
And then the time.
yes,
Those are measurable
right,
things.
so,
And then ordinance approval process, because, is we hold a public hearing and no vote is taken. And then we discuss at the next, whatever board meeting is next, and then on the next regular meeting, we vote. Unless, and then it moves to the town council with a recommendation, unless it is a second or subsequent public hearing. Sign ordinance, then you can vote on the same day as the public hearing. Or the other, unless is like the subdivision ordinance, we are constrained by a time or emergency situation. So you have to leave exceptions, but those are all measurable things.
and
So there's two ways to check that I think are pretty fair. A chair.
And I saw that in the rules that I never, maybe just didn't pay attention to before, but if an item is tabled and it's not heard next meeting.
Correct.
It's gone and can't even be submitted, so that would be the responsibility of the chair to make sure it's on the next meeting. If
Unless-
that's missed, then that's.
Well, that can be intentional too. It's like a pocket read. So we can have a discussion. So please take time. Kent, I happen to have these all printed out, just like them to markup. I'll give them to you. And then,
Is it also in SharePoint?
it is in SharePoint. This is the one that we received earlier in the year.
Yes,
And we were gonna change. So I thought we could look at it, see if there's anything worth transferring. This is the current one. What do we like, what do we don't like?
that's just one there.
And then this third thing is just, I started typing this one up again with some changes. Aimed at this, right? Changes to B and D in our code. Does that make sense? Yep. All right,
So,
and okay, so you're gonna go to 2024. Would it help if I created a separate folder outside of the months for rules of procedure?
I don't know.
Well, right now you're gonna go to November, but you just passed it. And you're gonna go to the work meeting. To the version of the language. I just loaded it up.
No,
You do, so that's.
There it is.
just got finished second.
Flat.
For me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
so I will create a new folder that lives outside of our months. It'll be in 2024, and it will just be these three documents that I just mentioned.
Okay, great.
And not all the things from other towns. I think we're past that point now,
Right.
right? We've had a chance to look at those, so let's start focusing. It's called ideation, where you like just do all the ideas and then you start to focus down. That is all I have, ladies and gentlemen. Is there anything, under other discussion, going back there, let's make this happen in January. So we work on this.
Larry, are you gonna be here in December for the meeting?
Yeah, the only thing I'll miss is the Christmas party.
The Zoom meeting.
Oh, yeah, I have to zoom in on, December.
The 11th, right, is that when?
But you'll be here?
No,
Zoom.
Zoom, you'll, so I canceled our plans. The dinner plans so that he could attend that meeting.
Great, okay.
Zoom.
Cause I think we just need to go on minutes and.
Yeah, we have to, yeah, because our two new commissioners
Yeah,
are there.
Oh, that's good.
So
No.
we need you.
I'll be there.
And there'll be two items for public hearing, 3 items for public hearing. Subdivision, e-bike updates, and, there's one more, the zone change. There's 3 things. What are you doing?
So that's public hearing, we just listen to the comments and we're only gonna vote on
We're gonna vote on,
subdivision.
subdivision.
3 items for public hearing, I thought we were gonna do 4.
What's the 4th one?
I thought we were redoing the. Removing resort zone, so I can nail.
Yes. Yes. Where's the end check?
Cause I'm gonna have to re-listen to the rest.
We're gonna vote on the subdivision ordinance, the chart ordinance, the removal of lodging. We're gonna vote on those.
Yeah, but
We don't need a public hearing set.
if I have to.
Oh, the resort zone, notify.
No, I
Yes,
have to notify, and that has to be a public hearing.
yes. Yeah,
And you could vote on it,
because it's had a previous.
because it's already had a previous one, but
Yeah, that.
I have to have it. as-
But it wasn't on our list of things to discuss.
I know, but I have to have it as a public hearing.
You're absolutely right.
And. Cause they have to be properly.
Correct. And that's why we moved it.
Yeah.
We held it on to the next one. So it is, let's just get this clear.
4 things for public hearing.
We have the zone change, we have the subdivision on which we will also vote. We have removing the resort zone, which we will also vote. We have, the e-bike. What am I missing?
And that's it for public hearing.
That's for public hearing.
Correct.
And then we will go ahead and be voting on the chapter, the subdivision, the resort zone, and removing of lodging and service stations.
And then you will vote also on your calendar for the next year. That needs to be a vote.
And calendar.
It has to be an official vote.
Calendar, okay. Anything else from any other?
Kristen said she will send you all the updated copy of the lighting ordinance.
So we have a lot of holiday reading to do between Riker and once again, Crystal's gonna put up 2 versions of the subdivision ordinance, so look at both and we will.
One's already up there. Rikers is already in the folder.
Correct.
I'm waiting on Keith.
In December, and these will be in the December
December folder.
folder, and we'll organize them by public hearing, public meeting. There is no work meeting in December. Okay? Oh, and I wanted you to share that. I had you down there and I forgot to give you the face.
Yes, so I attended a countywide bike ride on Monday for, was mostly SUBA members, which is the Southern Utah
Wilderness.
Bike, isn't it?
Bike,
Suba, Viking.
yeah, SUBA, yeah. Bike
So many.
Alliance. But they were put on by the city of St. George and they were showing us what they've done with the grant money they received to improve their bike lanes around town. And my takeaway was that most of the public officials there said we are in the best position to get those grants. The governor has committed $1 million a year for the next 10 years for bike paths or shared use paths. And most of that money will be earmarked for connectivity. So in other words, connecting towns. And because we're so isolated, would be really high on their priority list if we submitted an application for a grant. So it's encouraging, and I know that, in our transportation plan, we have a bike lane plan for the 9 on both sides, but there's also a lot of money in helping divide bikes from traffic,
And on Sheep Ridge, there will be a separate bike path.
and then the county, right?
County, and they are going to do the partly for paving right now as well, when they do that.
So the proposed plan that the UDOT put together for the ancillary roads.
Ancillary.
Yes, that's good, 'cause I love that, and I'm glad we put them in, because that's a great way to connect to all the bike trails. You could ride from your house now on a safe bike lane all the way to, well, you will be able to, all the way to the mountain bike trails, which is great. But yeah, the big thing is that we have an opportunity to get a lot of grant, or some grant money to help buffer our bike lanes. They showed us several different things they spent money on, tunnel under the freeway, and that's huge. So that people that live on campus can get to the hospital where they do their medical training, so it's. And then a lot of things I never even thought about, the little concrete curbs that bring the pedestrians out to the, I guess, the parking lane. So that your area that you have to cross on the street is very limited, it's not, it adds, 15 feet on either side for the parking lane, you have to stand behind cars, but now you can safely walk out to the edge and. But they had several of those,
So who would, the city would submit?
yeah, the council will have to.
So are you going to make a presentation to council? You might talk to the mayor about that.
That's right.
I think they would be interested.
Yeah, and it might help, like, we've approved this UDOT's bike lane in our transportation plan. But wouldn't it be nice to have that buffer, in other words, have some sort of separation, either landscape medium or, but something beside the painted line. Yeah, this money might help that, and we take it all the way down the hill to where there could potentially be.
But that's already gonna happen.
Yeah, that's another trails, is it countywide trails or there's another open
Didn't I send you that? Well, that's the Zion County Court, CRC.
Yeah, there's one that's all trails, it's off-road trails, biking trails, hiking trails. Yeah, so there's and they're trying to connect cities also.
Well, thank you for going. I
That's
really
fine.
appreciate that.
So you get the bike out.
That sounds just like.
Well, we love the St. George and Washington City's bike trails, and the ones we really love are the ones that go along the river, and I would love to see some property owner cooperation and try to figure out a way to get part of our bike trail along the river. I know there's some geological issues, but some of those can be overcome with pedestrian bridges that might be a part of this grant funding, so.
All right, well, thank you, commissioners, for our work meeting. We got a lot accomplished. And just to reiterate, we need to review our subdivision options, right? And that is for December. And then we need to give Riker feedback on neighborhood commercial. And Larry's going to get to Riker commercial habitation. Okay, and we also need to look over our new lighting proposal. And our rules and procedures. Oh, and not to mention anything Kevin sends us, right? Yeah. But I will try to add that to my summary thing that I typed up
And
in my area of meetings, appointments tomorrow.
you mentioned there's a zone change coming up too, that's just.
Correct. And Crystal, just to confirm for public hearing, we have subdivision, the resort zone, the e-bikes and the zone change, correct?
Or, yes.
And then voting, I count 5, uses charge, lodging, service stations, subdivision, our calendar, and removing the resource center.
Yeah, and the calendar can go on the consent agenda.
Calendar can go on consent agenda.
Yeah, it will be under the minutes, but we'll vote separately with it. We'll vote for minutes and the consent, and then we'll do the calendar.
So do I even need to remind you of the
No, I'll do it.
calendar? Okay, I'll just send those other things to you.
Yeah.
All right. And with that,
Motion to adjourn.
Sorry.
all in favor? Aye. And in time it is 7:35.
Thank you.